They say it right, every problem exists in this world can be solved by a person who has gone through that problem. Prameet Bhargav, who himself is a visually impaired, has developed an accessibility app called Louis Voice Control app for visually impaired people, which does better job than other assistants like Siri and Alexa. Welcome to yet another episode of Life Loosened Up, where I share meaningful conversation and spread the awareness with the hope of making small changes in someone's life. So, three takeaways from this interview. Number one, understand what is Louis app. Number two, understand the differences between Louis app versus Google Assistants and Siri. Number three, he lost his confidence at some point. How he got back into his life, how he developed the app. And finally, I asked this question to him: is he scared of big giant companies? So, guys, buckle up your seats, watch this show, enjoy this show. Please click on the like button and please subscribe to our channel, Life Loosened Up. Presenting to you Prameet Bhargav, founder of Louis Voice Control app. Enjoy! So, straight up to my first question, sir. According to the Microsoft, the attention span of any average human is 8 seconds. So, if I ask you to, describe your Louis app to any person who is not tech savvy in 2 minutes, how would you do that?
Okay. No, so I'll take probably lesser time. So basically, Louis is just about giving voice commands and being able to do each and everything within your favorite app and critical phone features just by voice commands. So that's all there is to it. So Louis will interact with the user just like a two-way continuous human interaction. It will give the options. It will completely handhold. That's what Louis is really.
Hello, Pramit. Good to see you. Which app would you like to use?
Uber.
Say or spell destination.
Park Plaza.
Park Plaza Gurugram. Would you like to select this location?
Yes.
Let's select a ride. Moto, 152 rupees.
Uber Go.
Uber Go, 2, 104 rupees.
Select.
Your pickup location is Hotel Radisson. Your destination is Park Plaza Gurugram. Payment method, test payment. Good to go with Uber Go.
Confirm.
Your booking is confirmed. Your driver is 8 minutes away. Driver profile, 5.0 star rating. White Chevrolet Aveo. Call or message driver.
Message.
Speak your message.
I'm wearing a blue shirt.
Got it.
Send.
Message sent.
WhatsApp.
Latest chat opening. Latest message. This message contains an image. Would you like me to describe this image? Yes or no?
Yes.
Opening image. This image contains screenshot mobile phone pattern. Text written on the image are voice control YouTube, Uber, WhatsApp, calls and contacts with Louis voice control.
YouTube.
It might seem crazy.
Hey Louis. Forward 37 seconds.
Forwarding.
Here's why. Because I'm happy.
Comment.
Speak your comment.
Hey, this is a great one.
Comment added.
Hey, visually impaired, do you at least see something or you don't see anything?
No, so for example, I don't see anything on the screen. So I can make out you are somewhere there. I can see some very. So my vision is, so basically my vision is impacted all around. I cannot read anything at all. Anything. So even if it's like a big bold letter anywhere, I cannot read. There is what I have is what is called a slight peripheral vision, which is also not very clear. But I can make out like I'm technically colorblind also. All the problems are there. Everything is there. But I can make out some colors, and if the light, there's a lot of light. So for example, right now I need to use a lot of light, and natural sunlight really helps. So, but I didn't see the sofa, so I banged against the corner and broke my finger. So it's a bit like that, So I get, so my vision is, I would say, very low.
Very low. Okay.
But that confidence sometimes, I walk fast and sometimes take a tumble here or there. So all that happens.
So do you have a helping hand in who can help you out in the household?
Yeah. So of course, my wife and kids are there. But like I said, see, within your house, you still there is even though like I broke my finger, but then because the sofa had been moved to a new position, so that's why. So, but you get familiar.
Right.
Yeah, so of course there is helping hand, but I try and to the extent possible be independent. Whether it's in terms of technology, whether it's running this business or managing the team, or we used to have an office earlier, so I used to book Uber using Louis. So in a way, whatever right now I'm trying to also develop is purely trying to solve my own problem. So that's what really it is.
Awesome, sir. So I just want to ask you one thing, which is almost on tip of my tongue. I'm pretty heavy. So the thing is, there was a time where I was trying to help a visually blind person, and he resisted. He said, "No, I don't need any help." So how do you think I should be dealing, or people who are watching this show should be dealing with people like this? Like, should we help them or we should not? What do you think? Can you just tell me one tip?
I'll tell you the trick. See what happens. See, often we think, and that's how at its very basic, the human mind will think that, okay, this guy is blind, he cannot see, right? So he doesn't have the vision.
Right.
Correct. What we forget is that there is a mind behind, behind that human. And so what happens is, so this happens even with my family, my close friends. They still don't know what I see, what I don't see. But more importantly, none of them realize what's going through my mind, right? And my life journey I can share. So what happens is, every visually impaired person would like to be independent. And would like to be independent in a manner that they are in control. So they would like to seek help, but not in a way where they are made to feel that they are not in control or not independent.
Can you just tell me 3 major differences between Louis and other assistants like Siri and Alexa?
Yeah, sure. So I think difference number 1 is, like I've already said, so Louis does continuous voice interaction. I think, so if you really want to do anything, if I want to book an Uber, you cannot have the way the voice assistants work, where you give them a command, they do something, then they go silent. Right, it has to be continuous voice interaction, just like we are doing. I mean, that's what really is natural and human to all of us. So that's difference number 1. The second big difference is that whatever that Louis voice enables, the user can do each and everything within that app or the feature. So for example, if it's booking an Uber, end-to-end Uber booking, post booking, each and everything, sharing your ride, sharing your trip, cancelling, changing your destination while on the trip, multiple stop booking, each and everything. Now, that's not something which, again, voice assistants do, because they will only do superficial, basic 2 or 3 things. See, the third big difference I would say is, so the voice assistants will always start from scratch. So, like I said, because they go silent and then you again give them a command, they'll again start from the beginning. Now, the way Louis is being built is keeping the needs for a blind person in mind. So now, let's say I'm inside Uber. Let's say I've already done my booking, and I start off Louis with just a double shake or by saying, "Hey Louis." Louis will automatically recognize which screen it is, where the user is, and it will just start off from there. So now imagine, I've already booked my Uber. Now I just want to know, okay, how much time is will the driver take to come? Maybe I want to share my trip with my friends and family. So, or maybe I want to just cancel my ride, right?
Right.
So that's not something which voice assistants will do. They'll start from scratch. They'll say, okay, where do you want to go? So that doesn't help. So these are 3 essential differences.
Awesome, sir. So you started, losing your vision in 2012, and then you started losing your confidence. Could you tell me 5 things you did, to come out of this?
Okay. So I started losing my vision from 1999. Actually, that was the time when there was a drug given, reacted on the retina, and my vision actually dropped almost overnight, quite drastically. But I could still manage, as I could get some corrections. So therefore, life went on. I kept on working with companies, and over the years, my vision kept dropping. And it's a very freakish case. So doctors really have no idea about how to treat it, or even any kind of prognosis also. Okay, and then that time came when suddenly I realized I cannot read anything at all, and then I lost confidence, because there are certain kind of jobs that I was doing with companies like Unilever, Motorola, Quest Diagnostics, and these are all senior management roles. And suddenly, the confidence is gone. Will I be able to do PowerPoint, Excel sheet, this, that? How will I work? And what really happened was I lost confidence. I was sitting at home for almost 2.5, 3 years, doing nothing. Now the credit of coming back, I will give it to my friends because they sort of spotted it. And I think there's something which a friend said, which I think, almost like was like a pinprick, which I needed to, like sort of get out of it. Where he said that, look, are you you are just living in the past. You're only trying to do what you used to do earlier. Now forget that. So there is a change of vision, right? Now why don't you work out what is it that you really want to do now? Don't live in the past. So I think that was one major learning for me, and therefore I started thinking, okay, what is it that I want to do? So that's one. Number two, I would say, is that even during this difficult phase, 2.5, 3 years, now imagine somebody who's like working like crazy all the time and just sitting at home doing nothing. Now, one thing I can tell you, because I was into meditation, because I was into spirituality, and the funny thing was that, I was actually calm from inside, almost happy. Now, that's something which is very counterintuitive to the way, material life works. When somebody will say, oh, you are crazy. That's what a friend also told me that, have you lost all zest for life? How can you say I'm sort of, cool and cool when, you don't have this, that, you're not earning anything. So I think being, so while there is a circumstance, and being able to accept it and being able to being comfortable with it doesn't. So when I say that acceptance doesn't mean that therefore I will not come out of it. But I'm just accepting the reality as it is. So therefore, I had no tension, stress, pressure. Maybe a little bit, which is very natural. And I think, so for example, this is the time when people will take to alcohol. Or I actually left alcohol. So during this phase, people will say I'm getting into depression. And like I said, I was actually already happy. So I think this is another thing that helped me. And I think as I went forward, I just sort of, I think confidence, and I come back to it. It's all in the mind. So as I started doing some consulting work, within I think 3 days, I realized that look, I am 97% effective. I'm just giving away 2-3% because of course I couldn't read, but then I could take help of people who were sighted in the office. So the moment that confidence comes back, that's when you can start flying. And I think whether any kind of disability or, there are people, no disability, but they're still into depression, still down. I think it's important to get that, control the mind and get back into, that kind of confidence. And once you are on that, and then, so like I said, I did this, and then, this opportunity to do work on Louis came, or suddenly out of the blue. So that's really how I got out of it.
Are you scared of the big giant companies like Facebook or Google? They might come up with some assistants like this, and that may, supersede your work.
Yeah.
Are you scared of them?
See, in a way, yes or no. So when I look at things from a very selfish perspective, my business, my app. So yes, the natural tendency is to say, oh, what if a competition comes? What will happen, etc. That's one way. Another way, when the moment you look at it in a broader sense, because for me it is more of a social project. So while yes, we are a technology startup, funded startup, and so on, but then the moment you look at it in a more social context, and I still genuinely believe that the kind of solution that Louis is providing, voice solution. In fact, I was right now with a Canadian university. We were doing this webinar. And in fact, they do a lot of research work on this. And they also said that, look, this is the most intuitive way, the easiest way for anybody to, for any user to control their phones. So when you look at it from that perspective, and more companies jump in, it can only be good for the user. So from a personal, if I sacrifice my personal objectives, then imagine how wonderful it would be if Louis leads the way. Therefore, Louis is the lone one, which is also fine. Maybe 5 more competitors who come in. Imagine how wonderful it would be for people not just disabled, visually impaired, motor disabled, elderly people, less educated people, because suddenly there is a new and a better way of using your mobile phones. So I would say in that sense I would be very happy if if the big ones come in. I think it will really help the world.
Are you scared of anything, sir?
That would also be a small contribution of Louis that that Louis has made to the world.
Apart from all this thing, are you scared of anything in your life?
See, I have been through these phases, So, for example, when I quit my job, because my vision was really dropping at that time, and I realized, look, in a traditional job, I can't. So when I quit my job, and I wanted to do a startup at that time, and I had 3 or 4 sleepless nights. I can tell you, I would wake up middle of the night sweating, and and what will happen tomorrow? My salary will, because so far I had been getting my regular monthly salaries and so on. So I think the fear just gripped me at that time. And this was before I got into meditation, spirituality, and like I said, because until then life for me was just material success, just going up the corporate ladder. That was the only yardstick. And honestly, I tended to be very selfish, very transactional. So everything was was all about what is in it for me, what benefit do I get out of it. So so in that sense, yes, I mean, fear had gripped me, but now, because how I came out of it, and I realized that, look, the only way, and again, a friend helped. I think he asked me a couple of questions that, look, can you look at fear in the eye, straight in the face? And can you then work out what is the worst that can happen? Define that. Now, I have seen this technique work beautifully. So a friend helped me do that. So the moment you look at fear in the face and ask yourself, okay, what is the worst that can happen to me? And define, and when you have that worst, you will find that worst is actually very, very acceptable. Now, so imagine, now you know the worst and that is acceptable to you. And then you say, oh, what am I then afraid of? Right? So suddenly, your perspective on the life changes.
So when you asked
That's what really,
when you asked yourself, like, what's the worst thing that you may expect, what did the answer, came?
See, so this was at that time only, and then of course, as going down the spiritual path, you get far more comfortable with it. But even at that time, I was comfortable. So I said, okay, what is the worst that can happen? Right, the worst would be that, okay, I'll be leading a very simple life. I'll have a small house and maybe in a small town. I don't have to live in, in a metro, and a small town, and I'll have enough savings, which I can put in, fixed return securities and get enough income. I did some, and I said, this is actually not bad. Maybe it's actually better.
Right.
Then the madness of life in a metro and so on. So I think having done that, then I said, look, this is good. So this is the worst that can happen. Then it can only be better, because I mean, most often the worst doesn't come. It's only the fear that grips us.
Exactly.
So that's what really worked for me. And even now it happens. So like you said, okay, sometimes I do get these thoughts. So like, for example, I'll tell you, even when I was developing Louis, and there came a time when we said we need to start giving it to the users, because you create a prototype and then you want to test it out with users. So again, a very strong thought came, am I the only idiot in the world who's going to use the Louis? So, and natural one. So then again I said, okay, at least it's useful for me. So again I could say, okay, what is the worst? Nobody else will use it, at least I'll use it, because this is really working for me. I can tell you that it's really solving my own problem, and I'm completely dependent on it. But I was sort of lucky that, like I said, I think there are many more people like me who would like to use it. That way it's a lot of luck.
Could you speak about your employees and your relationship with them? Like how, like in terms of difference of opinions and overall your relationship with the employees?
So what we have tried to build, so because I have worked with all kind of organizations, from large multinationals to typical I would say a typical family concern, in a well-established company, to a business within the company which is like a pure startup. Setting up things from scratch. So I've seen all kind of cultures, the good and the bad, and so what I've tried to inculcate is use that experience, try and pick up the goods, the good part of it. So I think what we have tried to do is keep it a very flat organization, which means everybody is on first name and everybody is approachable. And so we do have hierarchies, but those hierarchies are very fluid. in the sense that everybody, it's a small team, everybody has their task clearly marked out, and there's very open communication all the time, because I realize communication is the most important thing. Whether you are sitting in the office or right now nobody's in the office, everybody's away. So that's number one. Number two, keep politics out of it completely. So the only criteria we judge people on, or our own performance, is basically the quality of work. So how you speak to me, are you a yes man, or you always are confront on everything?
Right.
It doesn't matter. As long as the ideas are there, the quality of work is good, as long as the contribution is there. So that again is very, very important. I think the third bit that we are trying to do is a lot of teamwork, because what I realized is, so if you see, and I've seen it in very large multinationals. So for example, let's say in a multinational sense, we have got 4 departments, so to say. So there is technology development, which are Android developers. Then there is quality assurance, there is user experience, and then there is marketing. Now, often, in a large company, these will be like sitting on different floors with their own hierarchies, their own, politics. And then they don't work well with each other. Now here, the way they work is, so the entire development, Android developer, so a developer in a day cannot do his work. So this is surprising in our setup, unless he's talking continuously to quality assurance, who are giving him continuous feedback on,
Got it.
because they are testing the app, and user experience. Because what happens with Louis is, so if you see, the user doesn't see the technology, it's a two-way interaction. Louis says something, user says something. So that's all
Right.
user hears. I'm not saying I don't even know what the technology you're using, what is running inside. So whatever work the developer does is only as good if the user experience is good, otherwise it's no good. So often what happens in a testing scenario, it is supposed to do that, it is doing that. But is it doing it in a manner that the user will understand? Or is it, for example, instead of saying open, the user says, do it, let's say, right? Now, because this is the user lingo, I'm just giving a very simplistic example, right? So that's where user experience has to come in. Okay, why don't we, if user says this, support this kind of thing. So it's a very, and similarly marketing, because marketing, if they don't know what's happening on the product or what kind of thing, because they come up with a lot of ideas, they are interacting with a lot of user groups. So we try and work it, so everybody has their task, their functionality, but then it's like a very cohesive team effort. So that's what so these are some of the things I'm trying to build. I don't know whether, so it's like, I don't know whether I'm at 10% of where we want to go, but then this is something we continuously try and improve.
Awesome. Gorgeous answer, sir. And if I'm not wrong, your quality assurance team are visually impaired people too?
Yeah. So we have, apart from me, there are 2 more visually impaired people. So there is one in user experience and then one in testing. By the way, when I say testing for for visually impaired, they're actually, what I encourage them to do is use it, don't test it. So there's a difference. So the difference is like, I'm like a user. So, in a way, I am very lucky that being a founder, sometimes you can be very disconnected from from what's really happening on the ground. Now, because I am like the biggest user, the biggest critic of this app. I mean, there are times when I used to say it's a very crappy app. It's shit, why will somebody use it? So, so when you're yourself the user, the biggest critic, so, I don't have to wait for a user to tell me that, this is happening. I sometimes tell the user, look, these are 2 problems. Why don't you use it and tell me? So they're actually surprised, So why will somebody, because people are expected to say only good things about their app, right? So I think visually impaired people, we encourage them to use the app. So because then what happens, you will come up with many more ideas, and you're not just testing it. And like I said, testing can be very, very mechanical.
Right.
Okay, this I did this. Okay, it's fine. But then when you're using it, is it really working for you? That's the fundamental question. That's what, I have to keep asking on Louis. Is it really working? So even, for example, recently, it's only 5 weeks that we started talking about Louis. And, otherwise it was all under wraps. We just had a few users who were giving us feedback. And, what really, makes me at least satisfied, at least we are in the right direction, is, users may come back and say great app and so on. But what really helps when I can feel that pulse. Yes, it is we are meeting a need. Yes, I needed this an app like this, and yes, Louis is working for me. So then you're meeting an unmet need, and to my mind, that's the most important thing.
Yep.
If we can do that for a visually impaired.
Yeah. So, sir, can you just give 3 tips for yet to be entrepreneurs?
Okay, so I am no expert to give anybody any tips, but I will only share my experience, right?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, because I'm still learning, by the way.
Yep.
So I think one in my case, I think what helped was because, like I said, I was trying to solve my own problem. Now, once you're on that path, I think it's that kind of motivation and passion is of a different order. And what I have learned, I've heard from venture capitalists is that a lot of startup ideas or big startups actually came, and we all of us have heard of these stories where the founder was trying to solve his own problem. So I think if you are in that sweet spot, I think it always works for you. So I would say that's number one. The learning which I have. I think the second learning which I have, and which is like a trap, and one can easily get into it, which I call founder's ego. So very quickly, and by the way, we also got into it once, so that's why I'm being honest. So what happens is that you start feeling, oh, I am the product that I have created, the app that I have created is the mightiest and the greatest, the best. And then when somebody criticizes it, so when the user comes back and says, no, this is not working, this is bad, your instant reaction with that ego is the user is an idiot. So that ego stops you from, an open mind, because if that ego is there, then your mind is not open, you're not open to criticism, you're not listening to, what others are saying. And often then it will get very, very difficult to improve. So that's my share. I'm just sharing what I have, and I've learned it all the hard way. And I think third, which I realize, is transparency. So for example, currently we have investors in India and USA, and 2 of them, by the way, are also visually impaired, so they can connect with the project. Now, one of the things I realized is, and if you I'm, like I said, I'm the biggest critic. So there are a lot of times, so I'm just absolutely transparent, with the investors or any stakeholders that we have, even with users. So where it helps is that, look, the trust develops. I don't think that anybody will start trusting you if they can't, unless they see that, okay, this guy is telling me what it, the way it is. So because a startup, by the nature of it, will have its ups and downs, will have challenges, will have the app not working. I mean, we had a time, can you believe it, where I showed a chart to the investors where I said that, look, we got critical blockers. 17, I think the number was 79%. 79% of our users are not able to use the app. Imagine. And now, we have been working on it systematically. Now I think those blockers are down to, I don't know, they're almost negligible now, right? So now what I've seen, the stakeholders, the investors love it that way, because you're just being honest. And of course they'll ask you, okay, they'll get worried, they might, but then they don't know that the fact that you are sharing it so openly obviously means that you will, of course, also work on it. So you're not raising your hands and saying, oh, everything is lost or nothing of that sort. So that's my other experience, that just be as transparent. I think it makes life simple. Then I don't have to worry about what did I tell this guy last time, what did I tell that guy. There is just one story, one narration, which is, what the truth is.
Right.
I think it's simple enough.
So I read that you have reversed the diabetic thing. Do you have a process in mind that you can share it with the viewers? Like, how did you reverse your diabetes?
Okay, basically I was leading a really bad lifestyle. So like I said, I was on this whole, go up the corporate ladder. So one thing, and I think we all need to watch out for it, because often what happens is that we sacrifice our health, and we sometimes sacrifice our families also by not giving them enough time. So essentially, what happens when you're on this trip, and I was on that trip. So there was just no time I was giving to myself, to the quality time to the family. In the sense, when I say quality time, where I'm really connected. I may be there but not there. I may be using my in those days BlackBerry, for example, and today of course there are all kind of screens and distractions.
Right.
So I think I was leading a bad lifestyle, and the net result was I was obese. I was I had a lot of stress. I had a bad temperament. I had bad eating habits, and it showed up in very high diabetic level, very high. And but I had diabetes is like there in my family. Everybody has it. I lost my father early only because of diabetic complications. So imagine when this happened. I somehow, and from childhood, I had seen him take insulin injections morning and evening.
Right.
So I knew that there is no end. Once you're on that diabetic path, you go to a doctor will put you on medicine, and then it will just keep getting worse and worse. I also immediately realized that, look, the solution is A, in my mind, and B, I have to get back to healthier habits. So I can, so diabetes, if you ask me, and I often tell people, it's actually nothing but an unbalanced metabolism. Let's put it this way. So where you're, so like when we are young, let's say 15-year-old, our body is well balanced. What I eat, how I live, I'm exercising. It's a very well. Now, as we keep getting, older and we start working, we are sitting the whole time, etc. So somewhere that balance gets shifted. So if I can, and in my, so I have by the way, I have shared a video, so it's on YouTube. Maybe you can share it with the viewers.
Definitely.
And there, all my learnings are there, and I've tried to make it as structured as I can. The audio quality is not great because I just shot it in the, in the open, but it's absolutely 100% all my learnings which are there. And I start off by saying it's all in the mind, and I seriously believe it's all in the mind. If you have diabetes, if you make up your mind and say, okay, I am going to get rid of it. It's not a disease like a cancer, and we got to understand that. It's not like the way I'm carrying the fracture in my foot, because it will take its own time to heal. Diabetes is something we can take charge of. It's just a natural correction that we need to make to what is called insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome. It's easy to get out of it. Once you're on the medicine trip, it's not like a disease that you can cure. So when the doctors are giving you so-called medicines, these are not medicines actually. These are artificially keeping your blood sugar low, for that moment. It's like if you have a very volatile, stock market. I try and compare with that. Right, it's going up and down, and then there are, sometimes the central bank comes and sort of, tries to intervene and so on, whether in, currency market. So it's a bit like that's all these are doing. Now they're not addressing the core problem. So none of the medicines are actually healing you. They're only trying to manage that the blood sugar remains low. So there is a very easy to actually get out of it, but it's all in the mind that we have to make up our mind. So I've been doing this, I've been sharing this video for last several years actually. So I have spoken to hundreds of people across the world. And I'm just doing it so that, if people can, at least there may be something in my learnings that may be of use.
And for all my viewers, I have linked that video which he's talking about in the link above. Just click and you can get to that link on YouTube. So yeah, those were the only questions I had, Parmeet. Thank you so much for coming to our show and answering my questions.
Right. Thank you so much.